It's a very horny party. People tend to get down and date quite quickly. You're like, whoop.
I'm so fucking excited for next week.
Being me is over. It's time to be mummy. I need to stop this now because I'd never done it.
Like, it sounds quite futuristic to me too.
Yeah.
Like the latex and the machine and the operator together. Like,
just installing consent, love, respect, intention in children from a young age is a good thing to do.
I think this is like actually a really interesting segue, and this bridge is gonna make sense, but into like motherhood, where like our bodies are producing like the ingredients necessary for another person to be nourished or for another person to like be like sustained, right? Like something I was reading this book Butter recently, and like learning that like milk is it's created from blood, right? This whole process of like we're so intimately like involved in the individuals that we're interacting with.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that, you know, you were pregnant at 16, became a mother at 17. There's this like really beautiful quote on your Instagram where you talked about you were a mother before you were a woman in a lot of ways. How has that process been for you to become a mother first, before even going to the kink scene, before like your sexual explorations too?
I think in certain ways it was a benefit. I think that when women become mothers later on in life, maybe like 26, 27 or plus, they feel like they have to give their entire self and their whole identity to motherhood, and they develop, and then that stops. It's like, okay, being me is over. It's time to be mummy. And whereas like for me, both things like aligned, you know, I did them at the same time. They grew together, like being a mother and being an adult. It kind of didn't give me that concept that, oh, I need to stop this now, because I'd never done it. So I learned everything about the world as I was like raising a child. So when I had a second child, I wasn't like, oh, I'm having this loss of identity. I don't know my body. It's like I'd already had that process of breastfeeding my boobs, like at 16, like obviously I'm a teenager having very perky boobs, and then breastfeeding very young, and then like already feeling like, I think I had a dysmorphia with my body, because I was like, my boobs are like, I think they're like a 40-year-old's boob. And in my head, like they weren't, but in my head they were. So like accepting this change in my body so young definitely equipped me to do that so like in a much easier way when I was like 27, 28, when I had my second child. So I didn't have to relearn my body. I didn't have to relove my body, because like I already had this body that was altered from motherhood. And I think that's a lot of women are like, I've given birth, my hips are wider, I've got more stretch marks, and they have to like learn to love this different body that they hadn't had for most of their life. Whereas it was like, I just started out like this. Like I pressed play on being a woman the minute I was a mum. It was just, everything happened at once. Yeah. So yeah, it was a very, I think in lots of ways, very useful, but also difficult, because like I look at how I parent my younger child to my older child. I'm like, God, I didn't think about the effect of, you know, how I disciplined or how I spoke to, or like gentle parenting. Not that I was like mean, but I just didn't have as much perspective or life experience, and didn't think A affects B in the same way that I do now. So there's like a lot of guilt as well of being like a young parent and being like, I wish I'd done a better job. But I think I'm going to feel that now as well. I think as parents, you always feel like you could do a bad job. You never feel like you're doing good enough. But I think that's across the board. I feel like I'm never doing good enough about anything.
I think I think I agree. Yeah, I think that is a common parenting thought, right? That there's always more to be done. But I think that's also, that question is a sign of good parenting too, to be able to like recognize like there's always more work to be done. But at the end of the day, it's a relationship that, you know, is like there is no like perfect, you know, parenthood.
100%. There is no perfect mother. There's no perfect woman. There's no perfect dom. So you just have to try your best. As cheesy and as cliche as that sounds.
Has there been any ways that being a mother has influenced your BDSM exploration or vice versa?
Yeah, I think that I don't really like being called mummy. In a sense of it's not my favorite thing. I have done it, and with the odd client, it's felt like the right fit. But overall, it's not something that it's not something I gravitate towards. But equally, I do think I'm naturally nurturing and patient. I think motherhood gives you patience, and fucking hell, you need to be patient with or men in general. So I think it's definitely given me a patience and understanding that I've definitely put into my domcraft as well, and my nature. I'm way more patient than I think I would have ever been if I wasn't a mother. So
yeah, which is much needed with a lot of male submissives.
Yes, you really have to be patient.
Yeah. I would love to know, I know you and Toilet co-parent, right?
Yes.
How does the DS dynamic sort of reflect in the parenting at all, where there is a power differential that is part of the parenting, or is it quite vanilla?
I think, we are quite vanilla when it comes to parenting, but I think there will be little things like if my shoelaces come undone on the street, I'm not fucking getting down to do them up. I expect him to do it. So that will always stay. So I'm is it that teaching children that being subservient to a woman at certain points, or I mean, you can spin the whole doing your shoes up as even a DDLG dynamic too. So it's it's so nuanced, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kink. So I think little things like that. And I think it was hard to, where I was so used to being in charge with certain things, and even with our photography, listening to him sometimes I struggle with, because I'm okay, we are in an equal relationship in some ways, but we're not in every way, and then that can become confusing and the lines can muddy with having to be right, in this we are equal and I do have to listen to you,
Yeah.
that can be challenging. But we've been co-parenting for as long as we've been together, pretty much. I think he met Louis quite early on and we had to separate kink, but then when we moved in together and then when we had a second child, that became more and more and more. So it's definitely impacted, I would like him to sleep on the bathroom floor every night and that just can't happen. It's not fair. So it definitely impacts our play and the depth of our DS dynamic now.
Yeah. And I think, I know there's a lot of people in the kink scene who are parents, right? And I think everyone negotiates sort of when do you even want to, and teach your child that this is a DS thing versus not. How do you sort of figure out those educational lines for yourself?
I think that with sex and teaching sex, sex isn't dirty, and DS relationships aren't inherently bad. So I think that teaching children that you can have these relationships in a healthy way isn't a problem. I think there's a time, there's a place, there's an age. I think that kids should not be exposed to pornography, or I don't think there should just be sex toys lying around my house for a 5-year-old to find. But I do think it's really aided me in conversations with my teenager when he's asked about STIs, and maybe I've been a bit overboard. I've been right, with anal sex there's this, with vaginal sex, really try, been able to be really coherent in what I can explain. And so in terms of that, and I think that when you're someone that's in these relationships that are sexually deep, and a DS relationship is deeper, I think, than a casual romantic relationship in lots of ways. You've had to be thoughtful. You've had to be patient. You've had to think about things in a different way. And that kind of breadth and depth of your person just aids you to be a better parent, because you're able to be more understanding and think about things in a larger way, I think, than if you weren't. I do think a lot of people that are involved in DS relationships tend to be quite intelligent, not everyone, but a lot of the people that I associate with that I know are some of the most intelligent people I've ever met. And they're the people that are in, deep DS relationships, because to communicate in that way requires a level of negotiation and intelligence that can definitely be applied to being a parent as well. So, yeah.
So if you would give like one advice for new parents who are in the BDSM scene around, raising a kid, when to sort of have this talk or not, what would that advice be?
I think things happen naturally. There isn't like a one rule. I think with my oldest child, he knew that we took naked photos of people. And then he's now nearly 17, and he knows that we had a conversation around, okay, Mum, you take pictures of sex. We had this conversation quite recently. And he goes, what's the difference between what you do and porn? And I was like, porn isn't bad if it's done with two consenting and it's ethical. Like, some porn is bad. But if it's paid for and the people who are working in it are paid fairly and they're consenting and all these things, like, porn isn't all bad. But to have the discussion about like what I do and the difference, we got to speak about intention, and the intention of the work that we make isn't to be consumed for gratification, it's to document. And being able to have that conversation with him was like really beautiful to, and then that led us on to talk about sex and how sex can be intentional and doesn't have to, it can be just for fun if you want it to be, in kind of how those things align with porn and art, and how they can mirror, lustful sex or intentional sex, and us kind of having those discussions. I mean, he's legally able to have sex, so these are conversations that, he was a bit awkward because he's a 6-year-old boy. But he listened, and it was something we could speak about. And as I said, if I hadn't had, if I didn't do sex work and work in the field I do, would I have been able to have that conversation with him? And have those conversations meant that he can navigate sex more safely and understand consent better and treat his partners in a better way,
Yeah.
But it's something that just happened. Every child is going to be different. I don't think there's like, this is at 10 years old, this is what you need to teach a child. Like, I don't think there is a one size fits all. I think every child and relationship is going to be different. I don't think teaching young children the ins and outs of sex I think it's damaging, but I think the science stuff is good. And just installing consent, love, respect, intention in children from a young age is a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful to hear. I think a lot of like parents tend to like not even have these conversations in a way that like normalizes the fact that it exists, right? I think oftentimes it's awkward for a lot of people, and they tend to avoid it rather than just being like, hey, this is the way it goes. A while ago, I did this interview with another mother who's a sex worker, and we also interviewed her daughter about like, what was it like, growing up and having these conversations early. And one line that her daughter said, and she, I think, was like 16 at the time when we did the interview, she was like, yeah, it was just very clear at a young age that like nudity doesn't mean consent, for example. Yeah. Something as simple as that, right? Someone dresses a certain way, that doesn't mean that they're looking for XYZ. That means they're dressing that way. And I think it's really lovely when that kind of like candor around the education can just be a little bit more common.
Yeah, 100%. I think if we create taboos and rejection around sexuality, that's when you can develop a problematic or strained relationship with it.
Absolutely. I would love to pivot to your photography, your art, and your nightlife curation. So you have a fine arts background, and you photograph your own sex life. You've done kink work for editorial magazines. You've photographed Club Verboten. I would love to know how you navigate photography and consent in a sex club, right? It's very different from photographing a vanilla nightclub, for example, where everyone's sort of like, take a picture of me. How do you go about that?
So at my own parties, one-night parties, we have wristbands. So it's a consent as soon as you get to the door, which I would expect or hope that people are pretty sober or completely sober. A lot of our guests stay sober all night, actually. But so getting a consent when you're not in the throes of lust, when you've not had lots of drinks, is the most important time to get, obviously. So it goes with if you were going to negotiate a sex scene, you'd want those things to be in place. So we ask guests at the door if they would like to be photographed at all, and if they're happy to be photographed but have no face in it, or if they're photographed, all of them. I said that a really weird way around, but I hope that makes sense. So that we have 3 different wristbands. So at the door, they have the wristbands put on. So when you're at one night, if I can see you've got a green wristband and you're playing with another person that has either a green wristband or a yellow wristband, that means no face or everything, I can go and photograph you. So I don't have to interrupt the scene, and that's explained. I don't have to interrupt the scene. I can just come take the photo, and that means like consent has already been established prior. And if you've got a red wristband, then that's no photos and the camera stays away from you. So at our club, that works really easily. With KV or other clubs that we've worked at, TG, we've kind of documented Joyride, Riot, like lots of sex clubs. Trying to have conversations prior to people playing. So if there's a cue to a playroom, having a chat and being like, hey guys, are you playing tonight? If you are, sorry, my stomach's rumbling. I don't know if the mic picked that up.
The body always intrudes, right?
So we'll be like, are you playing tonight? If so, are you comfortable with us taking photos or me taking photos? If they say yes, it's like, are you okay with your face to be in it? Or do you want it just body only so it's more anonymous? So it's just navigating. And then where we're at clubs so much, there are people that we know. So we can just kind of make eye contact and be like, and then like, if there feels like there's a natural break in the play.
You're like, I know you're exhibitionist. You're going to love it.
Yes, I know, that you're online maybe in that capacity, or and we know each other. I wouldn't just assume, because actually often workers, if they're playing in a space and they're playing for themselves, maybe they for once don't want a fucking camera in their face because they're so used to making content. So there's never like those, just because people are fucking for a living doesn't mean they want to be photographed fucking everywhere. So I think that's also really important to respect sex workers' spaces in spaces where they're choosing to enjoy themselves too. So
in like sex clubs too, I always feel a lot more comfortable when the videographer or photographer is a sex worker themselves, because they understand, like the pressure of like, there's a camera here now, and if you're doing content all the time, there's a like sudden urge to like, oh, am I performing now? Right? And like you just intuitively know that and know how to navigate it without having to, verbalize it too much, which is create such a really safe space for people. I would love to know if there is a scene that you photographed that really stands out to you.
Oh God, there are actually so many.
I bet.
There's a beautiful scene where someone was in just completely full latex and they were getting fucked by fuck machine, and there was like another full latex, like basically two, I don't know if they would self-identify as gimps, but to paint the picture in full latex, an operator of the machine and person doing, and just the visuals of them being completely anonymous, but just this tiny gap where their vagina was. And this machine coming into them, that was super beautiful.
It's like, it sounds quite futuristic to me too. Like that vision of like the latex and the machine and then the operator together, like this is like future sex.
yes, it was. It was very beautiful to watch. I think I've seen some incredible orgies where like there's a lot of limbs and a lot of things going on at the same time. Definitely seen some like heavy CP stuff that's been really exciting. I haven't photographed at a sex club for a little bit. It's been like 2 months and my brain's a bit like...
Well, I'm excited for next week.
So I will be doing so on Saturday.
Yeah, you can definitely photograph me. I'm excited to just like enjoy myself, let go.
Yeah, I'm trying to... Oh no, I've just remembered a scene. I just remembered a really good one.
Give it to me.
The last one. So there was one person and it was at their birthday, I think. And they were just being adored by like 4 or 5 people. So there was like people in their front hole, people in their back hole, people on their chest, someone in their mouth. They were like on a cross. They were being, so it was like every single, like someone was like licking their toes, like every single part of them was being like worshipped, adored, pleasured, teased at the same time. And they were just in ecstasy. And it was fucking incredible to watch and photograph parts of it too, because different people had different consent within the group. That was a really special one that happened recently. And just, it was at one night. So it was like creating a space, A, where that happens, and then B, being lucky enough to document a scene like that was really fucking special.
Yeah, when you see these moments, how do you conceptualize the... like, what's the best word for it? I don't have a photographer's like language. So how sort of the composition, right? Like what are you looking for when you see a moment? Like what are you trying to capture in that moment?
I think I really enjoy the details. So like I might just like to photograph like the tension of someone's hand digging into someone's leg, or like limbs entangled, so they're suggestive that people are fucking, but you can't actually see any genitals, you just see their legs entwined, or like the hand on a cross, so it's just, you can't, I like to so the viewer can kind of create like, or project maybe their own fantasy or what they think happened, because you're never going to know what happened from an image. So I like to give like a very small part away. I think I'm very interested in that. And then I think where I do enjoy more graphic images, I do love close up. I love a fisting photo, or you know, the more graphic images. But I like them alongside having small parts. I very rarely photograph like a whole larger scale scene where it's like the whole thing. It's always kind of fragments often.
Yeah, I find like there's intimacy in details, right?
100%.
Like you can really feel a scene not from like, oh, they're necessarily fucking, but like this is the way they're holding each other.
Yes.
And that's like exactly what you said, like the tension.
Or the aftermath. I love photographing a couple that are sat next to each other, if it's like a penis owner and like after they've come. So like they've just post come, and you might see like some cum on their leg, and just like they're flaccid but they're still that bit hard, and it's like they're kind of zipping back up. I like just the moment after. It's not often, you can't always get these moments because you have to get the consent and you have to be there at the right time, but when you get them, it's very fucking magic. Or the beginning. I like the beginning and the end as well.
Yeah, I really like your photography and your video work, because something that I find is lacking in mainstream porn is it's too clean. You know, it's airbrushed, the lighting's perfect. They're moaning as this like really like specific performance. And for me, that kind of like high production porn that's built out by big companies, it's very clearly a product, right? That's meant to be consumed in a certain way for capital. And the way you photograph is in a lot of ways an antithesis to that, where you're showing the intimacy of like the filth, the messiness. This is what it looks like when it's human, right? Like it's not, it's all the in between. It's what it actually looks like when people are just moving. And I think you have such a good eye for capturing those moments. Yeah. So you should definitely check it out. Heavy Consumption or London Vagabond. We'll see on Instagram. And yeah, they're really gorgeous. And I think, you'll get a really good sense of her eye when you do check it out. Could you paint a picture of like what a typical one-night party is like, if there is a typical one-night party?
Oh, there's a typical one, red, pink light, like ambient kind of music, and the feeling of the room kind of mirrors that. Lots of entangled limbs, lots of moaning, wet patches, across the room.
I'm so fucking excited for next week. I've been saving my like social battery for this party.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so
really
excited for it. Just keep going. Paint the picture more.
Then depending on the event, there's lots of kissing, there's lots of wholesomeness. You know, at the last party, there's people sat around just in a massage circle. They were all just massaging each other. It's filthy, but it's a very horny party. People tend to get down and date quite quickly. You're like, whoop.
Oh, thank God.
Or very like lots of group sex happens.
Yeah.
But equally people come that don't want to play and they just socialize. A lot of the events we have dancers, always, if they're dancers, strippers. We like to support sex workers, of course. And we have made a habit of playing spin the bottle as well. So we had like the largest spin the bottle ever. I think we had I feel like there was like 60 people that played this game of spin the bottle, and we just end up pairing people up and like people snogging strangers. They feel, it's really hard to put it into words. It's very magical. It feels very serene as well at points. Different venues will create a different atmosphere. So we've had them in mansions and you kind of keep stumbling across in different rooms, and there's like an orgy on one bed and then someone's being tied in another room, and then you look and then someone's dancing and sitting in cake, and it's like all these things happening at the same time. And then there's other spaces that like we work, have a party out of like a big railway arch, and that one has, we always have like images on the screen. Like I usually have my video work on the screen at the same time, so it feels like they do feel very femme charged, but there's definitely been all kind of different gender identities and expressions there now, which I think at the beginning it felt way more femme, and now it doesn't as much. It feels more, obviously no cis men, but it feels like we've got a lot more non-binary guests. We've had trans men guests. Tripping over my words. Trans men guests, non-binary guests, and kind of it definitely feels now like a party that is for people that have ever been labelled as a woman at any point in their life. You know, that could be trans women, cis women, non-binary people, trans men. That's a very eclectic amount of gender expressions. Yeah. So it just feels amazing to have a space that's just void of cis men, basically.
Yeah, it's much needed.
Yes, it is.
Because there's a lot of spaces that's meant for cis men for most of history, right? Yeah. Like gentlemen clubs, strip clubs, 100%. You know, there's always been a lot of like male-only spaces that have excluded all other identities. Yeah. And
I'm pro-excluding cis men, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's special to create a space that's like, you know, kind of exclusive for this. And it's actually not very common. Like I can't recall one party or like one organization in like New York or LA where it's like, this is just for femmes only, or like femme presenting people only. So it's wonderful to find one here, and to participate in it very soon. Have there ever been the party at one night, and what happened?
Well, like
what is like the party that you're like, wow, this is really exceptional,
that topped it?
Yeah.
Oh, there's been a few I really, really enjoyed. We did a collab with a party called Sex and Rage, and their sex worker led very lesbian party, and they have incredible dancers. So we did like a collab with them about a year ago, and it was just so amazing to have like all of these dancers, and they're very, very fucking talented. The music was amazing, seeing everyone dance, and then there being this other room that was not big enough. We needed a way bigger play space. Like the queue was out the door, but people were just like, when you were in the room, like the vibes were impeccable. We needed a bigger play space. Yeah. So that is a space that really stands out. But then just occasionally, like a party will pop up, like you'll do one and you're just like, why was that so good? And people will just, you can feel like friendships are being formed in the room, and the people that have met at those parties go on to like attend all different events together and really develop, like, you know, we've had lots of people that are lovers have met and have continued on to have relationships and form all these friendships. And then, occasionally there's just something in the air and there's like a lot of group sex and a lot of people really getting on, and it's just like the vibes are just impeccable and you don't know what you did that time to make it so perfect. But yeah, I really love collaboration. I love working with other parties and being able to give our audience something new as well. Yeah.
Thanks for watching this episode of Uncensored with MX Tomie. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're a very good sub. And don't forget to follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon, and all the other apps that I'm on. I'll see you on the next one.